Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, we've already done our Buckeye Weekly for today, so it's like, should we do a show after the Ryan Day press conference? Absolutely we should. It's the middle of the season. This is when there's too much stuff to talk about, which is, in the podcasting business, what we know is a good problem to have.
Good problem to have. We talked with Ryan Day for about 35 minutes today. Not a lot of Wisconsin talk, and not
Why?
just no. As Ryan Day said, just don't look at the 37-0. Pay no attention to the 37-0 loss to Iowa behind the curtain. Wisconsin is a dangerous team, well coached. They play hard.
All the things that coaches say when it's like, what can I say about this team that's not, did you see what just happened to them last weekend? Which is more galling? 0 points against the Iowa defense or 37 points against the Iowa offense?
37 points, giving up 37 points. We've seen teams struggle to score against Iowa. That's understood. Now, failing to score is an issue. Giving up 37 points to an Iowa offense that has gone months without scoring 37 points, that's a bridge too far. And as you know, if you've been to Madison, there's a lot of water. You need bridges. This is not a good loss for the Badgers at all.
Did you see the graphic that the Big Ten put out with the number of points that each team has scored in conference play? And I think the next to last team was something like 13 points. And Wisconsin was, Tony, as the kids say,
6-7?
6.7.
Wow.
Yes. Not great.
Not great. And so understandably that there was not a lot of talk about Wisconsin. There's a little bit of talk about Wisconsin. The running game, popular topic of conversation. And Ryan Day was asked, are you getting what you need out of the 12 personnel in terms of the running game? Or just said 12 personnel overall. And he said, yeah, I think so. The short yardage runs, something that we have talked about where you're averaging 3 yards a carry. How many of those are short yardage runs? Because you're not going to average. Like he said, if it's 3rd and 1 and you pick up 3 yards, that's a good thing. And so he feels like the efficiency is what they look at, and that's okay. It's doing well. It's good enough, or it's not a disaster. I don't know if it's good enough. It's not a disaster. It's somewhere within those two sectors.
Famously, the standard inside this building. Well, it's not a disaster. So, yeah, and he's right. He's right. They are staying on schedule a decent percentage of the time. And on schedule is basically 4 yards on first down, half of what you need on second down, and then convert the third down. And they've been more or less doing that a decent amount of the time. They haven't been explosive. That's really where the gap has been, why is this not happening? And I think there's a lot of different answers to that. The offensive line did not have a great game against Illinois. The tight end blocking was not great against Illinois. And the running backs are the running backs. I think Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson is pretty clearly back number 1, and there's not a 1A if they were on this year's team. So they're sort of working around that, and you're figuring out, they're still very much figuring out what's the best combination of players, scheme, alignments, formation, whatever. They're still sort of working through that, because as much as it feels like, well, they're already halfway through the regular season, it's like, yes, they're halfway through the regular season. You got 6 more regular season games, potentially a Big Ten championship game, potentially up to 4 college football playoff games. So yeah, you're halfway through the regular season. You're like a third of the way through the season, potentially. So they're still, what was 6 games into last season? Was that the Nebraska game?
I think that was the Oregon game, right?
Was that the Oregon game? Yeah. So famously, nothing changed after that point, and that Oregon team was the team that went out to Oregon was the final product of the 2024 Ohio State football season. Very sad, but that's how it ended. R.I.P. to a bunch of real ones.
Never mind all that fan fiction that's out there. They did say Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins through the first 6 games were not the same backs they were at the end of the season. They both had their minuses that they worked through and their weaknesses that they turned into no longer weaknesses and perhaps strengths, to the point where either of them could play at either point, at any point. Whereas now, he was asked about the 3 running backs that you've got now and how best you're using them. And he's like, what you can't do is specialize each of these guys in one thing. They've got to be able to do it all. Because as we've talked about before, if one guy's a short yardage back, the defense knows, hey, here's a short yardage play. Or, like if this is the third down back, we know it's going to be a swing pass, stuff like that. They need all three of these guys to be able to do everything, and it's still a work in progress. And they're also still collecting data on what they do best, they being the entire offense, the running game. So that's still, being filtered in, filtered out, and then you implement, we're really good at this. Okay, well, let's try this for a couple of weeks and make those, maximize your strengths, lift up your weaknesses. So that's all still going on. This game at Wisconsin, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again, is an opportunity for the most boring, let's work out our issues kind of game that you've ever seen in your life.
Why don't you just have a seat on the couch over there and we're going to talk through things for 3 hours on CBS. It'll be great. This is going to be a game where you look at what has happened to Wisconsin this year and Ohio State. There's going to be people who look at this and go, well, they should win 70-0. And the goal is not to win 70-0. The goal is not even to win 40-0. The goal is to take this opportunity to figure some stuff out, try some new stuff, put some stuff on film probably, but just sort of figure out, okay, you're going to try some different stuff. You're going to try some stuff, same personnel grouping, different formations, different plays, whatever it is, because this is an opportunity. This is the reps that you get. We talk about this in terms of individual players all the time. The most valuable thing that they have as coaches is individual game reps to give to players. That's true on the unit basis as well. To be able to have the offense go out there and try and run. Maybe you're just running a different variation of the same play out of a slightly different formation. You're motioning people differently. Whatever it is, this is your chance to try it against a real live defense that's trying to stop you. Now, this is almost, it's a game, so it counts for real, but it's sort of like one of those like war games where it's like you've got the red team and the blue team and you're going up against, and it's like, well, I know what I'm going to do. Let's see how they decide, what they decide to do and how that impacts what we do, and then what's our answer to that. You have a chance to work through all this stuff. The outcome of this weekend's game is, it's not settled yet, but I'll take, this is one of those bet your life games where you'd feel pretty comfortable betting your life that Ohio State's going to win this game. Ohio State doesn't care that much. Gamblers beware. Ohio State doesn't give a crap whether they cover the spread this weekend or not. They've covered the spread every game so far. Ryan Day's not going into this game going, well, we got to win, and we got to win by 24.5 points. He doesn't care. He wants to work on what they're going to work on and get better and try guys in different situations, because this game matters only so much as they win and they move on. The games that really matter, that's later in the season.
Yeah, win this game and then start recruiting. The off week is here. After that. But there's also an opportunity to self-scout. That's also what will happen. So this is the last opportunity to get some stuff on film that you want to see how it goes. That way you can then take a good long look at it and, do we need this? We spent a lot of time on this. Are we going to spend more time on it later in the season? Because this is when you start cutting things down or adding things and figuring out what works, what doesn't, what else can we do. And I think the defense, offensively and defensively, they're still growing. But at some point you've got to decide, let's not grow with this. Let's grow with these things.
Well, it's like pruning a tree. Sometimes you got to trim some stuff out. Like the playbook cannot grow forever into, at some point you have like the Cheesecake Factory menu kind of playbook, and it's like, all right, this is too much stuff. There's no possible way this restaurant does all of these things with excellence. Like some of the stuff, like you could trim some of this stuff out of there. And that's kind of what they're doing. They're figuring out, okay, this works with this group of players, this works out of this formation, this doesn't work. And Ohio State went through a whole chunk of last season, went through the whole regular season before they kind of figured out, okay, with this group of offensive linemen, which was changing, admittedly, throughout the course of the season, and with these running backs, gap scheme works best in the run game. Well, they figured that out just in time for the playoffs, and guess what? Worked out great. So they only needed it for 4 games, but when they needed it, it was there and it was very effective. But they had to try. It wasn't just that they, the first day of fall camp went, well, we know what's going to work this year. It's going to be this. And no one's going to be able to adopt to it or change their plan for it. So we're just going to do it, and it'll be great, and it'll work all season long. That's not how it works. This is constantly a learning process.
We have seen Ryan Day when he is concerned about stuff, whether it was the offensive line before in the spring of 2023, the defensive line coming into this year. I don't see that same concern with the running game. And we keep asking, like, hey, you guys are 3 yards a carry. Things don't look great. 77 yards rushing against Texas. However, 100 and whatever it was, not much against Illinois. Is there an issue? He's always like, no, I think we're doing okay. And so that's interesting to me that we have seen him with concern, and we have seen him try to hide concern. And I don't get that sense from him here, unless he's just gotten really good at lying over the years.
No, I don't think so. I was kind of monitoring the chat during the live stream of the press conference, and someone said he looks tired, and it's like, no, that's what he looks like during the season. Like this is the time when you're working. We look tired, and he's working more hours than we are this time of year. So like I get it, but we have seen concerned Ryan Day. We've seen tense Ryan Day. Yeah. We've seen loose and relaxed Ryan Day. You asked him about the private equity thing, and kind of asked him about what his Amazon wish list would be, and he's like laughing up at the podium, and he was smiling at other questions. Like this is a relatively loose and relaxed Ryan Day. Obviously focused. Obviously not taking this game lightly, but we have seen tense, nervous, uncomfortable, worried Ryan Day. This isn't it at all, not even a little bit. And if you're wondering, well, they only ran for, 2.9 yards per carry or whatever it was against Illinois, how could that possibly be? Illinois had a bad defense. Watch the Ross Fulton analysis episode. That has been up for our Buckeye Huddle subscribers already for almost a full day at this point. It'll be up later for everyone else on YouTube. I talked to Ross a bunch about that, and he does a great job of explaining it. But the short answer is they're not trying to maximize the number of points they're scoring against Illinois. There was stuff there that they didn't take because they're working on stuff. So there are RPO tags to some of these plays that Ross is pretty sure just aren't live because they're not worried about, hey, we could throw the same curl flat combination to Tate and Jeremiah Smith 37 times and go up and down the field, and Illinois would have no answer for it. They're not trying to work on that because that game was comfortably in control for the vast majority of the game. It was 20-0 before halftime, and Illinois never got closer than 3 scores at any point in the last, 35 minutes of the game or something like that. So they didn't have to stress about, well, we got to keep moving the ball. They're figuring stuff out. It's a marathon, not a sprint approach. We saw that last year with how they handled pace and how they handled not running tempo, and you heard him all year last year complaining about, well, we're not getting enough snaps, and boy, this is really, I wish we were getting more snaps. And then at the end of the season, he's like, LOL, JK, we didn't want to do it. We were trying to limit the number of snaps. I think that you have to kind of keep in mind, like, yes, you sitting at home would love to see them put up 60 points in Illinois and say, haha, look, that's just as many points as Indiana. They don't give a crap. They won by 18 points. They won comfortably. They were never in danger. They're much more worried about doing stuff now to help them down the road.
He also said style points are no longer as important as they used to be with 14 playoff. And that was a real thing.
Oh, yeah.
And so now it's like all you have to do is win, and pretty good chance that you're in. So you win the surest way possible, and you don't need all of the shiny, happy people, touchdowns and things like that. Defense.
I was just hoping you were going to have a great REM transition.
No.
What's the frequency, Anthony?
Defensively, Tywan Malone was talked about, and Ryan Day said that his confidence has him playing at a very high, at his highest level, and he's finally. And we always talk about the baseball player, football player. He's now been football playing solely for 3 years now. He had a whale of a game. At least 3 legit wow plays that he made in this one, and it doesn't seem like now he's going to start regressing. I think this is a guy that's only going to get better. Now, there was no question about Edric Houston in terms of his availability. Ryan Day didn't have anything for us after the game about that, so that's maybe Wednesday night we'll get some kind of an answer, whether it's no answer or what. But he was not asked about today, and I think one of the reasons is because they're doing okay without him.
Right. That was a position where before the season, that was the single biggest concern was you've got Edric Houston, you've got Caden McDonald, and then what? And there was kind of just sort of, it was like an ellipses, and everyone's voice sort of trailed off. It was like, well, and it feels like Tywone Malone has really stepped up to the point where he was starting before Edric Houston was hurt. Now, Edric Houston got hurt on day one of fall practice, and I'm not 100% sold that Edric Houston has been 100% since then, but he's now, whether he plays this weekend or not, I don't think is going to functionally make a huge difference in terms of the result. And then you get a week off. So if he can take some time and heal up, again, you take the long view here. Tywone Malone has really done a great job filling in that spot, because I think Caden McDonald I had high expectations for Caden McDonald, and he has exceeded those so far this season. Tywone Malone has been, we said they need someone else to really step up in the interior of the defensive line. Will Smith has done, I think, a good job with that. Tywone Malone has done a great job with that, and so now you're sort of crossing some of those things off your list of the Amazon wish list for Ryan Day before the season. I really hope Santa brings me a nose tackle and a 3-tech in addition to the 2 guys that we think we've got. It feels like those are spots where you can cross those off the wish list now. Yeah,
he was also asked about Jermaine Matthews, who stepped in for Lorenzo Styles. Moved outside to inside at nickel, brought Devin Sanchez in to replace Jermaine Matthews outside. And so Jermaine Matthews has the ability to do both, and that gives them some versatility. He was also asked, basically, is your defense better with Jermaine Matthews at nickel than Lorenzo Styles? And he was like, wasn't interested in going down that path, but just said, the versatility that Jermaine Matthews gives them is right in line with the versatility of Caleb Downs and Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles. So that gives just the defensive staff more to work with and more things to do, first, second down, things like that. But this was, I don't think this was a surprise. I think we understood he had this kind of game in him. So to see him create 2 turnovers, sure, nobody predicted that, 1 tops. But he's also the guy that when he's outside, nobody throws at him. So he takes away a half of the field. So I think the best defense is him out wide, but the ability for him to play inside, there's not a big fall off, but you did see Illinois go after Devin Sanchez routinely.
Yeah. Well, and I think this goes back to a combination of who are the best 5 in the secondary. And very clearly they feel the best 5, if everyone's healthy, includes Lorenzo Styles Jr., and Devin Sanchez is the dime, so he's the 6th guy, but Lorenzo Styles Jr. is part of that best 5. But I think also, if you have a team, Illinois was a team where very clearly the best receiver, the biggest receiving threat, was the guy in the slot, Hank Beatty. And so if you have probably your best corner at this point, Jermaine Matthews, because it's, as you said, no one's throwing at him. You see Davison Igbinosun, and Davison Igbinosun has had a good season, has been making plays. And then Jermaine Matthews is just kind of on the other side of the field, and you don't see him, you don't hear from him. His stats are really, kind of like a bunch of real quiet days statistically, and it's like, that means he's good. That doesn't mean he's bad. That means he's good because no one's throwing the ball over there. Having him in the slot against Hank Beatty had 140, whatever it was, yards against Purdue the week before, and he had like 40-something against Ohio State. And it was just kind of a non-factor throughout the game. I do wonder if there's a team on the schedule, and I have not gone through and looked, is there a team on the schedule that is like Illinois where the slot guy is really clearly the best receiver, the biggest receiving threat? If there is, maybe you think about it. If you feel like Devin Sanchez can hold up on the outside, or maybe Lorenzo Styles can play outside, there are different possibilities. But that ability to adjust and that flexibility to be able to shuffle guys into different roles, that is an enormous advantage in terms of what they can do in the secondary.
Yeah, and of course the Devin Sanchez, he fought he fought hard. He had some good plays. He's going to be a different player in December than he is now. And when it gets to the point where you're playing a dynamic offense where their best weapon is in the slot, that's going to be something that you're going to have to consider, putting your best guy on their best guy, and Jermaine Matthews, who has the ability to do that, as we know. Anything else defensively before we maybe finish with the private equity thing?
Well, should we hit the special teams real quick? Because I know there's been questions about the special teams, and especially about the punting. And the punting has just been not quite what you would come to expect from Ohio State.
Or an Australian.
Yes. And so the question has sort of been floated a couple times. have you thought about putting Nick McLarty in there? And Brian Day kind of said, you're still dealing with a relatively small sample size of punts. They have not done a ton of it. I get the sense that in practice, you're still seeing Joe McGuire being more consistent than Nick McLarty. Like, Nick McLarty clearly has the bigger leg, but they're not putting him in, and it's not because it hasn't occurred to them that they could put him in. So it's obviously something they're seeing in practice. It's kind of the same conversation with the place kicking, where Jackson Corville, transfer from Ball State, he came over. I think the plan has always been to redshirt him this year. But he has a pretty good leg. He's made kicks from longer than 50 before. I know that there's kind of the, well, why can't Ohio State make 50-something yard kicks? Everyone else can. We watched USC make a 54-yarder against Michigan. Why can't Ohio State do that? I would guess that you will probably maybe see Jackson Corville at some point if, within the bounds of maintaining his red shirt, if they have a 50-something yarder later in the season against Michigan, Penn State, whatever, and they feel like he's the best option, well, you can use one of those 4 games. He's only played 1 so far. So, I'm sure these are both, these are not areas where it hasn't occurred to the coaching staff that they have other options. It's just right now they don't feel that those are the better options, but, they're going to continue to monitor it, and the answer may change.
Yeah, and he also talked about, they focused last week on kickoff returns and turnovers in practice, and you saw the results. They had a nice kickoff return. They forced 3 turnovers. I don't know how you force or focus on longer punts. That's just execution and leg strength.
Be more Australian.
Yeah, can't. I would like to see Ohio State go into the portal for a starting punter next year, one that has experience, one that has proven production. Because at this point, if Nick McLarty isn't consistent enough by now, I don't know that he's going to get there by next year. And right now, what Joey McGuire is. Mm-hmm. So if you're okay with that, then fine. If you're not, you're going to have to solve the problem through other means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
And then, so the last thing, the private equity. I don't know if we've talked too much about this. I don't think neither one of us are in favor of it. But this private equity deal is different than like private equity of people that are just coming in to raise the place and siphon off the money. Mm-hmm. This is a California pension fund.
University of California, so it's like retirement system.
They're not looking to shrivel, this whole thing up. They're actually looking to get their money back and then some. But $2.4 billion being given to the Big Ten. It still has to be agreed upon by all 18 Big Ten institutions. Right now, it was like Ohio State and Michigan were kind of putting their foot down a week or 2 ago when this first came out, mainly because, well, why should we only get as much as Purdue?
We've spent a century getting as much as Purdue. Purdue hasn't done anything with it, so all right.
And so now it's looking like, Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State would maybe get like $190 million. Everybody else get like 130, 140, 150, something like that. Now USC is kind of like, well, we're a big name too.
USC thinks it's people.
Right, and so they're kind of holding the thing hostage right now. And if then they finally get their number, then it sounds like this may go through. It's not a perfect deal. I talked a little bit with Ross Bjork about it today, and he's like, there's good things to it. There's not so good things to it. He didn't want to get into the downsides of it. To me, I think there's a lot of change going on, and tying yourself to some of the Big Ten schools right now and limiting yourself. The grant of rights extending it for another 10 years. Now that's different than the TV deals. Mm-hmm. That just means you're all going to be in the same kind of TV deal package, which also is maybe, does Ohio State want to do that? And
yeah.
So those are concerns, but Tom, it's tough to turn down $190 million of free money.
I just did it this week. What are you talking about? No, I think there's a couple areas where I still look at this and go, I have questions about, number one, why do you need to do this? Like, need to do this right now? I understand why you maybe want to do it. If you offer me $190 million, I will probably say yes. I don't need $190 million right now. Would it be nice? Absolutely. I don't need it. I don't know that they need it right now to the point where it's worth tethering yourself to this specific group of schools for the next 20 years, because the grant of rights currently goes till the mid-2030s, and this would be a 10-year extension out to the mid-2040s. I think it's 2046, right?
Yep.
So does Ohio State need $190 million right now so much that they are willing to tether themselves to Rutgers and Maryland and Purdue without question for the next 20 years? I would submit that they probably don't need it that much. I get why this is a great deal for Purdue. I get why this is a great deal for Northwestern. I get why this is a great deal for Penn State, which is probably looking for an infusion of cash right now. I don't know why this is something that Ohio State needs to do. And if you don't need to do it, I wouldn't make a 20-year decision based on like, well, you know, we could redo the kitchen, we could spruce up the master bath, like we could do that. That'd be okay. But I don't really understand why you need to do it. And I also, the history of conferences going to uneven revenue distributions, it's not a great one. There's a lot of, you know, can I get a little more Texas? Can I get a little more Longhorn Network in my monitors? That's one of those things where it's like, well, all right, we're going to keep Texas happy. We're going to give Texas a little more money right now. We're going to give Oklahoma a little more money right now. And it worked out great for the Big 12. I will take no follow-up questions.
Now, the other thing is, this is just, as far as we know, Ohio State and schools like Ohio State would only be getting a bigger piece of the pie of this pie.
Correct.
Not,
yes.
So it's
Correct.
like, that's why
Yeah.
it's different.
Right. So if it's a one-shot deal, are you familiar with the story of Chicago and its parking meters?
Yes.
The city of Chicago, 15, 20 years ago, decided we have a great idea. We need some money right now, so we're going to sell our parking meters, the rights to our parking meters, to monetize our parking meters to this private equity group. It's going to be, I forget what the number was. It was $1 billion or something in the neighborhood. It's $1 billion. Wow, we could build, you know, we could get a bouncy castle for our birthday, and we could, you know, can we make sure there's not potholes on Lakeshore Drive? No, that's a stupid question. But bouncy castle, yes, absolutely. And they signed the deal, and then like 6 months later, they're like, oh, now we have to get approval from the people who we sold the parking rights to. Anytime we want to shut down a street for construction, we have to pay them for the use of those parking meters because they can't use them because the street shut down. How long is this deal? Oh, just 75 years. It'll be done before you know it. How much more money's coming in after this? No, but we got the $1 billion the one time.
Yeah.
Like,
do they?
Why does Ohio State need $190 million right now so badly that they're willing to tie themselves to Rutgers and Maryland, who are only here because of cable TV households, which are not a thing anymore? That was a 2014 decision where Jim Delaney got his $20 million golden parachute, so he came out great out of it. Rutgers and Maryland, why? Jim Delaney got his $20 million, that's the why. Why are you signing up for another 20 years of that for $190 million that is like a, well, nice to have, but it's like, do you need it? I don't know that you do.
Yeah, and so you'll get that $190 million, whatever, and then just have to give up like 1/20th, a cut and pay annually based on the earnings of this new entity, which, as long as it's, so this 20-year deal or whatever, as long as, you know, you're not giving up more than, say, what, 19 million, 5 million a year.
You get into
$8
the
million
time value of money and all that kind of stuff, and it's, you know, this is not like a, well, you're going to give up, you know, you're giving up $190 million. You're making $190 million now, but you're giving up what? Like, it's not. The folks cutting this deal are going to make their money back. There's a whole time value of money thing. It's like the Bobby Bonilla contract with the Mets. Everyone goes LOL Mets every year, and it's like, well, it actually financially does make sense, but you kind of have the LOL Mets thing there. That's the kind of, it's like, it probably does make sense from that perspective. Honestly, to me, it's less the money and it's more the, are you sure you want to be locked in a room with Rutgers and Maryland for the next 20 years?
Well, and there are optics to it. And one of the things that Ross did mention is that, so this new entity is also trying to create revenue as well. So like, it could create money for schools as well, and not just take money from them.
Explain to me, and use small words, why Ohio State can't, or the existing Big Ten thing, why they need the University of California pension system to sell sponsorships for fields. Because it feels like Ohio State has already sold the sponsorship for a field. the University of California pension system.
As the Nebraska AD, I believe, said, now with this new entity, they could go to a national sponsor and get the same sponsor for everybody's jersey. Before, the Big Ten could not do that because they're not a known quantity. They needed a special marketing arm, Tom, which I'm sure they don't have right now.
I understand why this is a great deal for Purdue. I get it. I 100% get why. I don't understand. Like, Ohio State's field is sponsored by a local auto glass company. I'm sure, Nationwide Insurance sponsors stuff, right? Like, Nationwide Insurance is based in Columbus. Is there some reason you couldn't have Nationwide Insurance? Famously, the Blue Jackets did not need a deal to get a sponsorship with Nationwide Insurance for their arena. Like, it feels like it could be Nationwide Field at Ohio Stadium just as easily as it could be if your crack is bigger than a dollar bill, you need to replace the whole thing.
I just wonder if you package the Big Ten together, does Ohio State get more than if they just went out on their own?
If they could be associated with Ross-Ade Stadium, like, listen, this is prescription athletic turf, sir. You can't get your logo painted on that just anywhere. Again, I understand why this is great for Purdue. Absolutely. Minnesota? Sure. Absolutely. I am struggling to imagine that Ohio State is going to derive a ton of additional benefit from this.
Yeah. The thing is, why do it? I think part of the answer is, well, it's happening.
Why do it? Well, did I mention the $190 million?
Right. Because the SEC is already talking about it. The Big 12 is talking about it. This is the next step. And it was 6 months when we first started hearing about this or so. And it's just like, oh, no, that's terrible. And then, everybody eventually, it's just like, well, it's happening. So I guess you just got to be happy with the $190 million and go sign the number one 2026 recruiting class out there.
Well, and, I have bad news. If Ohio State is getting it, Ryan Day's joking answer to your question was, well, we can spend the whole $190 million on the 2026 recruiting class. We'll have a great class. Guess what? If Ohio State can do that, everyone else can do that. So
there goes the money real quick.
I can explain the concept of inflation to you, or we can just move on. But this is not a, Ohio State ends up with more than Rutgers, more than Purdue. But it's, again, you are then stuck with these groups, these schools, for 20 years. The money's going to be gone long before the deal is done. And in 2028, you're going to be looking at Rutgers and going, still, huh? Only 17 more years, 18 more years. And, but redid the master bath. So, Allworth.
The in-laws you never asked for and will never leave. And then, like Cousin Eddie, just out in the street, parked in the driveway. And his bathrobe. You know it's full.
Rutgers football. You're going to miss it when we leave here next month.
So, anything else from today?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, we are good. So that will do it from us. If you're watching, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. We would appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel because we're dropping stuff all the time, as you know. Hit the bell to be notified. We got live shows coming up as well. Headed to Wisconsin this week. It's a great place. It is a great place to go and experience for the weekend. I will say that. So if you have the chance, now might be the perfect time, because what I would not recommend is going at night when Wisconsin is also maybe pretty good and Ohio State is number one. I would assume now is the best time for Ohio State fans to go and take over the stadium, enjoy jump around and all the good things that the Badgers have to offer. So that will do it from here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all later.